Hey there guys, we're taking a look at Elden Ring running on the AMD Ryzen 5 5500U. Now this is currently running at 1080p with the absolute lowest settings because that's pretty much the only thing we could really get 1080p to do. The game actually defaulted to the highest setting. Actually, I don't know if it was the highest setting, but it was definitely the high preset. And it was clearly a sign that the computer was just trying to end its life because it was just such a struggle. I mean, you see how it's performing here at 1080p with the lowest possible settings. And this is an improvement over what we were getting before. Here you can actually see that in the opening spawn point, the FPS was just super brutal. It's actually not too far off, honestly, from where the lowest settings are, but it was definitely a much rougher experience because of the fact that anytime I would pan around, the frame times would spike up like crazy. So what you're seeing right now in terms of numbers is actually even more misleading than trying to actually play the game. So pretty much 1080p lowest settings is what I ended up doing for 1080p testing, and overall the experience was not great. It was playable, but it wasn't great. Those 1% lows are pretty much telling you that this is going to be a very rough experience, and those frame times kind of spiking up anytime we're doing almost anything is brutal. And this is the intro section. We're not even to the open world yet. I'll show you what the open world is like, not at 1080p, but at 720p, because once I finished most of this intro, I could not stomach playing this at 1080p any longer. It was just so brutal. It was so heavy, and a lot of the times when I was fighting someone, I would sometimes just get this like frame rate drop that honestly still kept happening at 720p, but at 1080p it was very blatant with just normal enemies. So overall, I'm just going to say 1080p is really out of the question, and honestly 720p is not that far behind. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Here we are actually in the open world area, and the performance that we're getting is, I mean, it looks great. If I was only showing you the averages, you'd think, wow, 41 FPS, that means it's really playable. But those 1% lows and those frame times are really what's going to tell you how this is actually going to perform, and this is not going to be a great experience. Tried to fight this boss here that's one of the first ones that you have to go up against, and the performance while trying to fight him was insanely terrible. Like, just take a look at how difficult it was to do almost anything, because anytime any major animations were being done by this boss, the frame rate would just tank. Like, it was just crazy. Like, pay attention to those frame times. They are spiking all over the place. It makes it very difficult to like time rolls and time dodges and stuff like that. When you're like there, you see that like stutter that's happening right there? That right there is consistently going to happen. It happened a lot in 1080p, even just fighting normal like enemies, but at 720p, the bosses just trigger this, and that ruins the entirety of the experience. And again, if I was only showing you averages, you probably would not even really realize just how bad this is. You know, you'd see like stutter and stuff like that, but you'd think like, oh, it can't be that bad. Those 1% lows and those frame times, I mean, look at those frame times just like spawning back in. They're freaking out. The frame rate is kind of all over the place, you know, because the frame times is what's telling you how consistent the performance is going to be like. A 40 FPS average doesn't mean anything if you have frame times like this, because you're getting inconsistent frames here. Now, some important things to note here. A lot of these issues might be resolved by a RAM upgrade. I mean, we are just on 8 gigabytes, and as you can see, the RAM utilization is pretty much just maxed out. So perhaps 16 gigabytes would actually improve the 1% lows enough to make this game playable, and I definitely look forward to trying that out later when I actually get 16 gigabytes of RAM. This is one of the top games that I want to test on there. But I appreciate you guys watching. I will see you guys next time. And don't forget to join the Discord that's linked down below.